I know you guys here know me, but some of the people who did purchase the training don't know me. For those of you who don't, I'm Aaron Atwell, and I started Edward Atwell Films in 2016, and it's really been a fun journey. I left a job where I was making, I think $19,000 a year, and at that time with four kids isn't very much. And now I've got to the point where I'm making that much on one deal or more, and it's been a really cool thing to experience because coming from $19,000 a year and having to have assistants and things like that, um, getting to the point to where you don't, and seeing like it is possible to get out of nothing and make yourself into something. I thought it was encouraging, and that's what kind of drives my desire to help people, is knowing that when I started, um, there was no way I would have believed that I could get to where I'm at now. And so I know from that experience that there are definitely other people like that out there. People that, they want to try, but maybe they're afraid or they just don't think it's possible. Um, the thing is that you can't be scared of failure. Um, even now I'm still thinking sometimes like, what if I get a customer and this video doesn't do well? What if they don't like it? What if it doesn't achieve results? And that's, unfortunately, that's part of it. That's going to happen. Sometimes videos, maybe you didn't understand the target audience or the client avatar quite as well as you should have, or maybe they misinterpreted the target market they were going for. But sometimes things just don't work. The key is to just keep going. A lot of successful people will say the more you fail, the more you win. And that's what I have to tell myself, is that if I get 10 customers in a row and it all sucks, like I'm just 10 more past me towards that one that's going to be fantastic. So that's my first encouragement to anybody, to you guys here, to anybody who listens, that even when things look really crappy, even when they suck, just keep moving forward, keep failing, and just try your best not to fail so big that you can't try again. So with that being said, a little bit about me. Why video? So it's a key thing to notice that we don't sell video. I don't sell video. I know you guys, Philip, I know you remember. I don't know if you other guys remember. You remember the Yellow Pages, right? Like the phone book company. In my opinion, they missed one of the biggest opportunities of our modern day age. Almost spilled water all over my computer. That would have been bad. But I think they missed one of the biggest opportunities, in our time period, because they were a company that sold phone books instead of a company that connects people to people. So they got so set in selling phone books when the internet came about. They had the resources to be bigger than Yahoo, bigger than AOL, bigger than Google, all these early companies that got in on it. But they said, you know what? No, we are phone book people, and that's what we're going to stick to. So while, excuse me, the information tonight is geared towards video, I would make sure you think about it in grander terms, and don't be someone who gets caught into selling video and then when the next season of life hits, shun anything else and be like, you know what, I'm doing video, like no matter what. Sorry. But so yeah. But with video, we're getting to the day, and I think we're already there, probably past it really, where video is no longer just a box you can check. It's not something that you can kind of do halfway and move forward in business, for these businesses that we're trying to help. It's really become an essential part of how we communicate with customers. There's different uses for it, of course. Most people, or most businesses I talk to anyway, when I go in to speak, with this person for the first time, their assumption is marketing, video marketing. That's it. They never really consider other things that are possible with video. But there's a lot. There's tons of things you can do with video. But here's the key thing. I hate to use the word convince, but if you're able to communicate your value in a way that you get a sell, you have to understand that if there isn't a strategy to your video, then it's for entertainment. Okay, and with no continual story, it's not that entertaining. And so then you really just get what I would call an expensive hobby. You know, some of my clients that, like me and Anthony, we went down to what was it, SNF, a place called SNF in Georgia, and it was a $20,000 job. Um, and you know, what if there was no strategy there? What if there was nothing behind it? You know, in those talks and communications, that would just be a really big waste of money, and you know, probably kind of unethical on my part. You know, I think as as storytellers, as marketers, you know, whatever we call ourselves, there is a big responsibility there to make sure that if you're saying that, you know, we have this strategy in place, you can't guarantee anything will work, of course. Like markets change, people change their minds, products sometimes end up being crappy and no one wants them. But you can't take that power that you have lightly, you know, to communicate experiences and tell a story with a certain spin on it. You want to make sure that you're doing your best to tell the truth, and not swindle people out of money. Um, and like I said, when you're watching this, and like you guys will have this, you know, for as long as I'm active, and you know the video stays up on YouTube servers or wherever. Um, but it can be applied to various things, and then also each step that I go through can be applied to other steps as well. It's really a cohesive kind of thing. Um, so I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the Bible. If you if you're not, this isn't like a religious call or anything, but there's this one portion where it says you can't put new wine into old wineskins. Um, and I'm always in my meetings saying that, not that in particular, but you can't stick with what worked, you know, 5 years ago to get new customers now. You always have to measure and evaluate your strategy. Um, you know, you need to measure, you need to evaluate both your strategies and your customers, you know, because sometimes your customer base can change, all these things. And these are talking to clients, you know, not, you don't want to say these in a sales meeting, probably. I mean, in the video, you wouldn't want to say these in a video. So that gets us to our main portion of what I think that most people getting started are, you know, interested in that next level of commercial work, is positioning yourself and framing your sell. Position, put simply, is just how people see you, how people think of you, if they do at all. And I can't be clear enough, guys. And this is something that, you know, I help a lot of people privately. And, you know, I always make little points in our conversation like, I probably wouldn't have done that, because it hurts your position. And once you lose your position, it is next to impossible to get back. It's really vital that you establish your position on first contact with your potential customer. Because you guys know, I'm sure, first impressions last, and it's a very psychological thing. And it's really weird how, you know, a good impression of someone, like, man, I like them, I trust them, they were cool, can be ruined very quickly. You know, all it takes is one small thing to like kind of turn you off on somebody. But bad impressions are the opposite. You know, you have a bad impression of someone, and it takes quite a bit of work to reverse that. And whatever, you know, for whatever reason, that's just the way it is. So it's really important from first contact, and really before that, like when you're planning on reaching out, you have to make sure that your position is going to be X, you know, whatever you want it to be. And you can never waver from that. It has to stay the same for the entire relationship. Because anytime you waver, you know, with, you know, let's say you sell a 10 grand project, so they view you as like, you know, this guy's definitely worth 10 grand. I'm getting a great deal. If you waver from that position, they're going to ask for 5 grand next time, because you wavered and now you've kind of lowered your position. They think a little less of you. So, and I always think of that, like, you remember the children's story, like the boy who cried wolf. You know, he positioned himself as the kind of person who would, you know, make up this false accusation that there was a wolf here. And, you know, when he got time that there was a wolf, you know, no one believed him, because he had positioned himself as this kind of person. So really, in my business, my position in the minds of my customers, like I occupy headspace, like I pay rent to live in their head pretty much, um, is my number one tool, is my number one power. It's like a superpower is positioning. Um, so step one, and I'm just looking back at my notes here. Like I said, I wrote 14 pages of notes, single space typed, and I'm hoping we can get through at least most of them. If not, maybe I'll send you guys the rest so you can look over them. Step one, and this was what I would consider the single most important step for me, was the story I told myself. Um, like, I don't know if it's not probably not like a literal thing every day, but every day in your subconscious, you believe something about yourself. Um, and when you're walking into a meeting with a business owner, a marketing manager, whatever kind of decision maker they are, also only ever meet with decision makers. Don't waste your time on other people. If you can't authorize a project or authorize a payment, then I have no time to meet with you. That's just another position, because like the CEO of Disney isn't going to meet with some accounting intern on the sixth floor. Like, they just don't have time for that. So that's part of that positioning, is only meet with decision makers. But like I was saying, if you're walking into these meetings with these people, if you don't believe that you're different than all the competition and all the countless choices they have, then why would that person believe that you're different? And the simple answer is they wouldn't. Your mindset, the story you believe about yourself, your position, has an effect on nearly everything about you. And a lot of people don't see this, but it really does. I knew a guy one time who had he had the right mindset. Like, he was like super powerful in his mind, but he just didn't take care of himself physically. Um, like he didn't look like he took care of himself. I don't know if that's rude to say or not, but who cares? But that takes an effect. That's part of your marketing. Everything you do is marketing. If you drive a Honda, that's part of your marketing. There's a reason you drive that Honda. You want people to see you a certain way. If you have an iPhone, you want people to see you a certain way. If you live in a nice neighborhood in a certain part of town, you want people to see you a certain way. So you have to realize, on step one, everything you decide to do, from the hats you wear, the jackets you wear, the headphones you use, all creates an impression on people to create, your initial position. Um, so to establish your position as the person who can give the right solution and is worth the money, the number one step, write this down, is that you have to believe it first. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a second just to let that sink in. You have to believe it before anybody else on the planet believe it. Sorry, just spit some ice back into my cup for whoever's watching afterwards. So after you believe it, how do you get this person that you're meeting with to agree that you are who you say you are? Because that's really the next step, right? I believe, I'm an amazing gymnast. I'm out here practicing on the mats day in and day out. How do I meet with someone, trying to try out for a new team, and convince them that I am who I say I am? I guess as a gymnast, you would probably have like some video evidence if you're doing gymnastics, but we don't really have video evidence of us in meetings, I guess. So it's really a process to get people to believe what you say about yourself. And like I said, you really have to be consistent throughout the entire relationship. Any wavering, your position is now gone. Let's see, I already covered that one. So the first key is to consistently show up and be, or try your best to be, sometimes you got to fake it to make it, who you say you are. A first impression isn't really too difficult. For example, if me and Phil ran into each other and we didn't know each other, say we ran into each other at I don't know what grocery stores you guys got there, Phil, like Kroger. What do you guys got? Kroger, Food Lion, Winn-Dixie, Lowe's, Harris Teeter. Nope. Piggly Wiggly. What's the one? Wegmans. You guys have Wegmans? You guys don't have grocery stores in Idaho. Or where you at? Iowa? We're getting super value. All right, so me and Phil run to each other at a super value. He's behind me online. We start up a random conversation. Say we're talking for a bit, and he asks what I do. And I say something like, "Oh, you know what? I'm in the IT field. I'm a software engineer." And I describe what I do by saying things about software systems, writing, testing code, information databases, and while at the same time I look like the kind of guy that Philip would expect to be in that field, and I present myself that way, um, as somebody who would be in that field. I would say there's almost no one on the planet who at first meeting would be like, you know what, you're not an IT man. I just don't believe it. You're not an IT. It'd have to take a real psychopath to do something like that, which probably wasn't a good fit anyway. So the first impression isn't so hard. So at that point in the relationship, we've just positioned ourselves as a software engineer, and in turn, that new person will treat us and interact with us like someone of that level. They're not gonna. And I hate the way it is, but it's business. People treat different people differently. Most people I run into don't treat the cleaning lady the same as the CEO, unfortunately. It's just the way things are, and the new person will treat and respect you the way they would someone that they view at that level. And I think it's a subconscious thing, hopefully, that people value someone based on how much value you can give back to them. And being that that's the system that we live in, I would say that it's important for us to get the upper hand on that system and work within it until it changes. Um, Another example would be, a low-end real estate broker would have less value to a billionaire looking for a new home than would a heart surgeon to someone getting open heart surgery. If I'm not in the market for what you have, then I don't have, any reason to meet with you or take time to talk to you, and you don't provide me very much value. But if I'm laying on the table about to get anesthesia and, I need a new heart and you're the guy doing it, then you have an immense value to me. And that's how you have to think about positioning. Um, so for me, how do I position myself? I position myself as a video strategy consultant. Okay. If someone says, "Oh, are you a videographer?" I am very quick to correct them and say, there are a lot of videographers. I am not one of them. If you're looking for one, I know several that would be great for the job. But it's important to note that I myself am not a videographer, because a videographer sells video, and that's not what I do. So how do I do it? And I think that's really the big question here is, maybe we understand positioning, maybe we know what we want to appear like, but how do you do it? So I do this firstly by carrying myself as a professional. I speak clearly, I enunciate, I stand straight. My mannerisms and my professionalism are on a level that you would expect from someone to be able to offer value. I don't go in looking like I just got out of playing basketball at the gym, headband still on, sneakers, and like dribbling my basketball in a meeting, because clearly that's not going to give the right impression. Sorry, email popping up there. Get that off my screen. That's definitely not going to give the right impression. So the first thing I do is I carry myself as a professional. I carry myself as someone that these people would see on their level. And let's be clear. When I said earlier, sometimes you got to fake it to make it. One of my customers, I know Anthony knows the guy, Andy Albright, is worth like, was it like $250, $300 million personally, and his company is doing over $1 billion in profit a year. When I walked into that meeting the first time, there's no way that we were on the same level, right? There's just nothing about us that would communicate that. But I carried myself like it. And you know what? At the end of the day, he respected me like I was. And I was able to close the deal, and it was a fun project. But going back a little bit more. So by the way you talk, you got to speak clearly, enunciate your words, speak intelligently, and really, so there's two other big things. You need to be able to quickly and easily relate whatever strategies you have in mind or whatever they're talking about into a video solution if you're selling video. If you can't connect those dots quickly, people will assume that you don't really know what you're talking about. Even if you actually do, and it just takes you a little bit to think of things, you really want to practice this. Even, I know it sounds weird to practice that, but I often practice sales meetings in my mind before I go. Just think of anything they might say so I can be prepared with a proper answer. So you need to be able to quickly and easily relate those ideas into video solutions. And the most important thing in positioning, well, I said that like 10 times now, but in the meeting, to position yourself is the questions you ask. The questions you ask have to be different and more in depth and more, get your wheels turning than any other video person they've ever talked to. So, if I meet with X client and they've had 10 different videographers do 10 different videos over the past 5 years, I need to be able to walk into the meeting and ask questions that, have the effect of, I don't have to tell you I am who I am, but the questions I ask, you know who I am. Does that make sense? It's kind of like maybe if you met like a particle physicist and they start talking about like neutrons and stuff, like, and you ask me a question, like, I'm already, okay, like, what you're talking about. Like, you're clearly well out of my, my league in that situation. So you want to make sure you're asking questions that are deep and, investigative questions that, other video people just aren't asking. It's not, yeah, thanks, Tim. That is a great point. Thank you. Other video people are asking things like, well, how long were you looking for a video? Like, say things like hourly rates, daily rates, slow motion, talk about gear, things like that. Like, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into, oh yeah, Philip, he's just like that other video guy we had is just a new guy. You've already, at that point, you've already lost the battle. And it's really going to take a miracle to get out of that hole. So, yes, exactly. I had a guy tell me one time that when you walk into these meetings, it's really like that. They like, all you have to offer me is money, right? I can get money from any other business on the block. What I have to offer you is something you can get nowhere else. So you really have to position it like that. That's a great point, Phil. So the questions that you ask in their mind, this is going to be a great indicator on how capable they think you are. If you ask those low-level questions, then they're going to think you're low level. If you ask questions like, if you're talking about a video and you're saying, do you want something that you can put up on Instagram? That's low level. Versus what I'm trying to determine, Anthony, is what your ideal client's worldview is when they decide to seek out your product compared to when they decide that it isn't for them or when they decide to purchase. There's 3 levels in that. And then, what is it you're hearing most often when your customers decide that their products aren't for them? Okay, so you can clearly see how those questions are 2 vastly different questions. One is about a video, one is about your business. They're just different things. Sorry, I keep shaking my camera, hitting my desk. I get passionate when I speak. I don't know if you guys watch The Office. It's one of my favorite shows. Anybody? Raise your hands. So, when Dwight's giving his speech and he's like pounding on the desk, that's what I was just doing. Sorry, I lost my track. So those 2 questions, that's a great scene, man. I watch The Office literally every day. It's my going to sleep show. But those questions definitely aren't the same type of questions. And you could say, if you met with those 2 people, how you could clearly see that they're 2 different levels of people. You're dealing with 2 different kinds of things. One will be viewed as the video guy or video girl, and one will be viewed as, a business owner, somebody with a grasp on marketing, storytelling, somebody that's a real value or an asset. And I know that I don't really need to tell you, but the latter of the 2 is worth a lot more money, a lot. So with that, let's take a pause. You guys unmute. Are there any questions, anything I can answer on positioning? Is what I've said clear so far? You can unmute. I'll unmute you if you can't.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, everything's great.
No questions? I'm that good?
You're good. I think
No
it gets
questions,
better.
but
You were talking earlier about that shoot I just had and how paring it down, and I think that's ultimately it ties in right what you're saying is approaching it from a strategy rather than just like, oh, here it is.
Yeah, and everything's got to be eating. Kyle's eating chicken. Everyone's eating chicken tonight. I had chicken. Phil, his kids had chicken. Kyle's eating chicken. Yeah, everything has to be strategy, and there's so many different strategies depending on what you want or what this company needs. And that's another thing. So let's take a little pause right here, and I'm going to talk about this for a second. It's not on my notes, but it's very important that you give. So it's the difference between a doctor and like a walk-in clinic person who weighs you in, right? Like the one is I mean, who cares about that person? The other is the most important person in the place. Um, but it's important, and what I do is I give prescriptive solutions to my customers. So I dive into their business. I listen carefully, and I try to pick up on anything that I can. And then I never ask my customers, "Oh, what do you want? What kind of video do you want?" I instead listen to their story, listen to their process, and figure out the holes in their business. And instead of asking them what they want, I then prescribe them what they need, which gives a different feel to the meeting as well. It just gives it a more like you have more authority working in that capacity. Um, what was the other thing I was going to say? We were talking about strategy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, so another important thing in positioning, and I know I touched on it earlier about how much power you have, as a storyteller, as a marketer, because let's not lie, we could convince people to do things with video that, maybe you shouldn't. Like video is powerful and you could make it look kind of like whatever you want. Like I could lie and tell you this as seen on TV product is the best ever. Like the Tac Visor or something, just a great product. But it's important to not do that. In the same vein, I find that one of the most important things to having long-term success, um, where almost anybody could probably go into a meeting and get a good sale. The key to having long-term success and them refer you and your work really stand the test of time is and this is going to sound cheesy, but if you just care about the people. Um, if me and Tim build a relationship and I care about Tim and I make it known that I care about him and I work hard towards the relationship, and work hard to making sure that I did what I said my part would be, it makes a big difference if you care about them and their customers. Had a guy tell me one time that I don't remember who it was that said this, but that you need to view these people like heroes. And when you go into these meetings and these relationships, they don't need another hero. You're not there to be the hero. You're there to guide them to where they want to be. And I find that that's also a big part of it. Excuse me. So with that, talking about commodities and all that stuff, we're kind of going into framing. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to framing. Positioning, how people see you, how people view you, and the value they place on you. It's important that you get that right from step one in your mind. Once you have it convinced in your mind that you're, this great video strategy consultant, then you work on planting that seed in their mind. And like I said, literally everything comes into play. You have to be on point, like Tim Love Point, every time. Can't waver. So framing. What is framing? I like to think of framing as what I hang my cell on, and what will make me different than the other solutions that you can have. It plays very closely with positioning, but it's really a different thing. I will say though, if your prospective customer does not believe in your position, they will not believe in your frame. So regardless of, you could have like the best well-written strategy out. If they think you mostly work at McDonald's and you don't really know what you're doing with video, they're not going to believe your frame either. And that's why positioning always comes first. You have to position yourself correctly, and then you can work on your framing. It's also important to note that you should never, 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 let me say that again, never, ever, frame any sale that I would consider a good sale. If you're working at $600, maybe, just it doesn't matter quite as much. But when you're working with anything that's high level, high ticket, when you're trying to pay your bills with this, you never want to frame your sale on features. Okay, so if Kyle is selling chicken that he's eating, I don't care that it has non-spices. I don't care that it falls off the bone quickly. I don't care that it comes with biscuit and a drink. It doesn't matter. People won't buy because of that. Maybe a biscuit and a chicken they would, but a high level product they're not buying because of features. People, including business owners, marketing managers, decision makers, everybody that you ever come into contact with buys with one thing only, and that's emotions. There's almost no product other than maybe if you get into like Dollar Tree or something like that, like those aren't emotion purchases. Those are usually out of need or out of an excess of free $1 bills that you don't have anything else to do with. But when you're really investing with something, when you're buying a car, when you're buying a home, when you're buying a TV, custom furniture, whatever it may be, whether you're investing your money with something, you do that with emotions. And then, as we'll get into later, you justify that purchase with logic. So if I'm going to buy a new car and I'm seeing these Mercedes-Benzes, I'm not buying a Mercedes for any feature that they offer. I'm buying a Mercedes because I want people to look at me like they look at people who drive Mercedes. And then, of course, what justify later with logic is what I'm going to tell my wife when I get home with the Mercedes. What I'm going to tell my coworkers. Oh, why'd you get that? You had a nice car. Why would you get a Mercedes? Oh, man, this thing's got X, Y, and Z. Like it goes this fast. Like all those things, they're clearly not why you bought it. You bought it because of a status and a symbol of who you want to be and how you want people to see you. So features are only the logic portion of the product or service. And framing based on those features is going to make you blend into the vast abyss that is, your customer's target market. And, in relation to your meeting, if you start saying like, oh man, like no doubt, I've got 4K, I've got 2 camera bodies, I can do slow-mo, I've got shotgun, that's going to sound like you're a videographer like every other one I've ever met. And that's not what you want to be. And like a Mercedes isn't a car like every other car you ever rode in. You don't want to be, what are those old cars? Geo Metros. You don't want to be a Geo Metro. Don't be that guy. So the first thing to know is that you never want to frame yourself based on any features of you, or frame your customer selling to theirs based on any features of their product. Another example would be like smartphones. Like how many people would scroll through Instagram and see an ad like new smartphone, 4-inch screen, buy now. And I'm like, oh, you know what? A 4-inch screen sounds nice. I think I'm gonna get into that. No one. Okay, nobody's doing that. That's that's like a form of pattern interruption, those kind of ads, and you're not going to get people with that type of feature. I like to think of it kind of like Android and iPhone. People buy iPhones. Why? Because they want to be known as the kind of people who can get an iPhone. And you'll notice it's subtle, but I mean it's definitely on purpose, a marketing tactic. Have you ever noticed how all iPhone or most iPhone cases have a hole in the back so you can see the Apple logo? That's because people who buy iPhones aren't curious about how the phone works. They want other people to know, I have an iPhone. I'm that kind of person. That's no coincidence. So Apple has, framed their devices using the emotion, and, they've lodged their brand into people's heads that makes us feel a certain way. And that's the same thing that you want to sell yourself on. Never features, only emotions. At first, you got to follow up with features, or else you're just going to be a weird person that just talks a lot of big game. So with all that said, you have to frame them on emotion first, but how will that work with, a high level video consultant? How do you go into a meeting and frame this sale on something other than features. So number one, the things that they're going to feel, the status that you're going to sell, this agreement, this project is going to make them feel smart. It'll make them feel excited at the possible outcome of exactly where they want to be. It will get them thinking about, all the additional customers you're going to drive in, or the higher level of engagement from current customers, among other things. But now the next thing you need to know, now that how Apple makes you feel, how Mercedes makes you feel, how like a McDouble makes you feel, and now we know how a video person at the level that we want to be at, we know how that makes you want to feel. But how do you get there? We get it by, so this is in the meeting, your first meeting with people. Here's how you get to start of this frame, at least, is high level listening, good storytelling, and like I said, caring about the customer. High level listening is a big part of that. And when I say high level listening, I'm not talking about only with our ears. And I'm going to give you an example here in a minute with a real customer. So a high level listening is not only hearing, their passion for what they do, their excitement about it. People don't get into stuff for no reason. There's usually a reason behind why people do the things they do. And a lot of times it's because they like it. They're enjoying it. Like if I started a fried chicken brand, I didn't start the fried chicken brand because I loved barbecue, but the truck was too expensive. I started the fried chicken because I love fried chicken. My mom taught me to make fried chicken when I was a kid. Her grandma taught her. It's like a whole thing. People have reasons why they do stuff. So it's listening with your ears, but it's also listening with your eyes and, feeling the vibe of people and how they are. So I'm going to give you guys an example, and, for everyone who listens afterwards, an example. So say you walk into a business that sells, custom items. I'm not going to say the kind of items because this is a real customer of mine and I don't want to give too much information away. You guys will be trying to steal my customers. But, you walk in and it's a custom shop and they have American flags, military memorabilia, everything's olive and black. They have like firearm kind of things going on. So going in here, what kind of, you can get a sense of what kind of person this is, the things that are important to him, the things that, like the vibe. That's what I mean. When you see the vibe, you're like, okay, so they're patriotic. They care about honor. They care about dedication. They care about loyalty, like things that high level listening you have to be able to get. Anthony, you may have met this guy. Have you met the guy who does the firearm stuff? No? I thought you would have. He hangs out with Jim a lot. So you go into this situation and you can bet that either they've served in the military, someone they love has or is serving in the military, a relative has served, some way they like this stuff and they have a reason behind it. So with that information, I don't know if you guys do this, but you can now know more about how to mirror your behavior and speech. So I don't know if you guys read Seth Godin, but you definitely should. He has this motto that you treat different people differently, which is super important. If I run into you and you're like the most high-end, hair designer in New York City, I'm not going to interact with you the same way as I would a man who sells heavy farm equipment in South Carolina. It's a different interaction, and I have to mirror my behavior differently. And it's not like lying. I'm not trying to say like, go in there and acting like you're just all about this high-end hair design or anything. But you can say like, this guy, I've named him John for the example. After seeing his product in action, I could see how, his customers would have pride in having this, custom product, and it's dependable. It's made in America, which I knew based on looking at the design of his shop was important to him. It was important to his customers. And that, it looks like the disconnect was getting the market to connect emotionally with a story. Once we get more people to connect emotionally with the product, then they will want to share it with their friends and people like them. So, let's say that I got, Phil, let's say I got into Chorus I don't know if 30-year-olds can get into course or not, but if I did, and I found this new product, and I was really feeling like it helped me out so much. You know who I would share it with? I would share it with you, because you're people like me. If I got a mediocre product, then I wouldn't share it with you at all, because I don't want to be seen as the kind of guy that's like, oh, he gets mediocre products, So I told this guy that that was where the disconnect was, in my opinion, that he did have some customers, but his customers weren't telling anyone else. And the reason they weren't is because they weren't emotionally invested. They weren't a part of the process. But what they really wanted to do first was lead with, or what I wanted him to do first was lead with the why. And I found that, every one of my deals, maybe every one, but like one or two, it's always been about the why of the business. That's the thing that I've found most people are very bad at communicating. Most of these companies I work with are working with old marketers. And I don't mean old in an age, but I mean old as in, they went to a 4-year school in the 80s, and they've been doing it the same way ever since. And of course, our world has grown and grown and grown since then. Which in that time, what you did was called pattern interruption. You would use X amount of money and interrupt people on television or on radio. And you knew that for every ad dollar you spent, you're going to get X in return. The more money you spend, the more you're getting in return. And it was just, that type of game. Well, we don't play the same game anymore. Because even though the internet is much bigger than all those channels and all those things, it is very segmented into small populations. There's like a little custom population, custom site, custom forum, custom group. There's a Reddit for everything. There's Facebook groups for everything. Like, nothing is, I can spend X dollars and get everyone's attention anymore. So that's why it then becomes about the why. If there's 50 companies all selling on features, and there's one telling me the story about that, like this guy, it was actually his mother served in the military, and I think she was a single mom, and so he just had, like, from that time, he had great respect for the military, and he was all about it. He also served in the Marines, and it was just part of who they were. So if you had 50 people selling his product, everybody else is going based on features, and he's communicating a story that his audience base clearly is going to connect with, he's going to be the one that gets the sale. So here's where we get to the important part. And this is usually where I would say that the sale ends up getting closed. So first step, I'm going to recap just a little. You have your positioning. And I hope I was clear with the positioning. Of course, we could talk for 30 hours on positioning, but I tried to hit the points that I thought were important. You position yourself correctly, and then you frame yourself and the sale of your services to make them feel a certain way. What's up, dude? You gonna learn about some video? We got you. Don't worry. You'll be making 10K in no time. 10 days to 10K. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe so. So you position yourself properly, then you frame the thing that you're offering in a way that makes them feel the way you want them to feel. Whether that be smart, like I said, excited, whatever it is. People want to feel a certain way. It's up to you when you're meeting with these people to understand, when you're listening to them, how they want to feel. Do they want to feel validated? Do they want to feel a part of something bigger? That's up to you. No one can do that for you. So you do that, but then to unlock the why, and I've realized that when you unlock the why, people buy into you. It's much like, there was a study sometime recently that I read that was on, like, in a workplace, if you ask an employee their opinion on something, they were like a lot more times willing to be vocal about it and support it, like, publicly, because they had buy-in on it, because they felt like they were a part of it. And so it's kind of the same idea. Once I can understand your why, and I can care about you, and I can also be excited about it, it's going to make you feel like I've bought into you, not just as the product, not just the business, but you as a person. And, as the person who's put all this work into this, that's important. Um, so I always get my why the same way. And I think Anthony's the only person I've ever had in a sales meeting with me. Hopefully I didn't embarrass myself too bad. I probably did, but I do that sometimes on purpose just to make people feel more comfortable. But I always get my why the same way. And it's like this. So tell me, actually, I'm going to unmute. Is Philip's gone? I'm going to do it with Anthony. Oh, Philip's back. I'm going to do it with Philip because you've already heard it before, Anthony. I'm trying to, Philip, unmute yourself. There you are. All right. So we're going to get to the bottom of your why, Phil. All right.
Sounds good.
This is the same way I approach every single business I ever work with, and it has never once failed. Okay. So Philip, we're not going to talk about video because I know you do video already.
Yep. Tristan, I need you to go upstairs. I'm busy. You might want to do it with Anthony.
All right, I'll do it with Anthony then.
Tristan.
All right, Philip was unavailable. Anthony, we're going to do it with you.
It's fine. I got no kids.
All right, yeah, me.
They all just tackle you.
Yeah, that'll be funny. All right, so this is the same way I do it with every business that I ever meet with. All right, Anthony, tell me, how old are you?
I'm 25.
You're 25. All right, so you've had 25 years on the earth. You've found a lot of things you like, you don't like, a lot of things you do and you don't do. I need to understand why, out of everything, you could have been a professional skater. You could have probably done a lot of things. I know you're interested in skydiving. Why, out of everything you do, why, out of everything you've ever tried, are you wanting to be a video person? Why do you want to sell video and, sell high-level projects? What is it about it? Like, why? I just need to understand.
Because of the way it makes me feel. I love delivering a video to a couple, and their reaction that's my why. It's when I get that positive reaction of that this couple and their family can relive those moments, and sometimes it brings tears to their eyes, or they're laughing or crying because they're so happy that they get that video. That's why I choose wedding videography.
Okay.
Wedding filmmaking.
So when you're describing that and I'm listening to you, it sounds like them being able to look back and really, really enjoy that memory is important. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why is that important to you?
Because of the way it makes me feel.
Okay. So we're stopping there. I already knew most of that about Anthony because he's my friend. But we can already tell. You can do this with literally anybody that does anything. We know that Anthony wants to feel validated. He wants to feel accepted. And the way that it makes him feel is very important. And, I assume that if I'm not mistaken, it would make you feel that way, right, Ant?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'll mute you back. I just unmuted Kyle. That's the wrong name. Sorry, Kyle. Hope you don't have anything weird going on over there. So really, you can do that with anything. And so let's say that I did that with Anthony in a meeting, and I could be like, oh, like, man, and I definitely hear you. Like, I feel the same way. I love that when I can provide a product to somebody and it makes them feel validated and accepted and like they're part of something bigger, in someone else's life, and they're really just giving back. Okay, at that point, we have what we call buy-in. We now transition from, you position yourself as this high-level person. You're a person worth, your weight. And then you're framing your sell on how you're making them feel during the conversation, right? So you're making them, and I think I posted in the group before, as you already know, as I'm sure you know, I say that all the time. Like, anything that gets their head thinking, oh yeah, like, this guy's smart, he knows. It's so simple, but it works so well. If I was selling you water, if I was selling you this water, I can be like, well, I'm sure you already know, like, this is a great cup, but so it's like a subconscious, like, play on things that already gets you guys thinking on that same wavelength, because I'm saying that I think I'm smart. If I'm sure then I obviously think you're smart. So now we're both smart. And it's all about feelings. How you make people feel. It's the easiest thing in the world once you understand it. So at this point, we go from that position and, framing our sell around their feelings to the buy-in. And the buy-in happens, like I said, when you understand their why. So now I know why Anthony is doing what he's doing. Now we just have a better connection emotionally, right? That might sound weird to some people, But when you're connected with people, you have that relationship. And, if the second part of the sale makes sense and we're going to work through it in a way that it would make total sense, of course it makes sense. There's no reason not to hire you. That's how we always want it. You want to leave a meeting where in the customer's mind or the prospective customer's mind, there's literally no situation where hiring you is a bad idea. And it'd almost be stupid to let you walk out without giving you money. Because time scarcity, that's a whole different thing that we probably won't have time to get into tonight because it's already after 7, but I'm going to keep going. So at that point, once you have the buy-in, this guy, Anthony, is thinking that we're on his side. We're people like him, and, we're excited about what he's excited about. And getting excited about what they're excited about is huge when you're trying to, help them push something or achieve a goal. So you have that combined with our position, and in their mind, we now go from Phil, the video guy, to Tim. Like, no, I know Tim. Well, he's not a videographer. He's more of like a consultant. Like, he's high level. Like, he knows what he's doing. Okay. And those are two completely different things. And so, just behind the scenes for me, I lead every single sales meeting with this, never varied from it. And I got told no one time in 2019. Out of every meeting I sat down in, one person said no. And he said no because I made a mistake and outsold myself. And if you don't know what that is, it's when you give too much in the meeting away that now they know how to do it themselves, which is also important not to do. I never discuss, in-depth strategy. I never discuss marketing, planning, anything like that if I don't have money in my pocket. And I learned that from that meeting because I had all these great ideas. And the guy was like, oh, man, that sounds good. But, I don't know if we need that right now. 2 days later, he was on Facebook ads with my ideas. So don't outsell yourself. Don't give away everything for free. But going back, by the time he starts telling you all this stuff, you're now not a videographer. You're exactly the person that he needs or she needs to get to that next level. And that's the key to commanding high prices. There's a difference between, a Phillips head screwdriver and a very specific tool that is made for one purpose, and that's to work on one machine that works on the International Space Station. I can guarantee you may have missed it, Tim. But I can guarantee you, I'll go back a little bit. I can guarantee you that a Phillips head screwdriver and that highly custom tool are going to be completely different in prices. And that's what you want. You want, by the time you discuss pricing in your customer's mind, you need to be planted in there as, this is not a videographer. This man seemed like was sent here on a mission from the future to help me right now. Like, there couldn't be a better fit. And it's not complicated to get there. And like I said, that's the key. If you are viewed as the only thing that can help this person, at least in their mind and in this meeting, you can say almost any price and they'll say yes. And it's just that simple. If they have the money. And of course, they might be like, man, I wish I could, but I only got $300. So what can you do for that? And in that case, you might have just wasted the meeting. But simply put, the person you are talking to has to tell themselves a story that you're worth it, and that you're never selling a video, which is a commodity. Everybody has a phone. Everybody can make a video any time of the day they want. There's multiple platforms, editing, all that. Anybody can do all that these days. Those are features that are worthless. So you don't want to do that. But really what you're selling is yourself and a solution that is uniquely related to you. Next, it's extremely important that you actually listen to the why when you're digging through all this stuff, to make this connection. It's important that you actually listen to, because if you get down the road and don't, you're going to be in trouble. So that why is where you're going to get nearly every emotional connection tool and clue that you need to connect them with their market. And another trick that it's surprising how many interviewers and video people I see that really stink at this part. So you saw how I asked Anthony why. Like, out of everything you could do, Why? And that's how, Tim, if you missed that, that's how I start every meeting. That's the sentence I start every single meeting with. After like the pleasantries, like, oh, hey, like the weather's nice. Yeah, it's snowing and stuff. I just start with like, so tell me, Tim, out of everything you decided to do, why Africa? Why in the world? You could be anywhere on the planet. Why you want to be in Africa for? That's how I start every single one. So what was I saying? No, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So you saw how I asked Anthony, why do you decide to do this thing that you're doing? Why do you want to sell this thing that you're selling? Why do you want to be a part of this thing that you want to be a part of? So many people stop there, and I urge you, please do not stop there. You need to ask a second, a third, a fourth why. Because while Anthony, being high level as he is and in this training with us, most people don't know that what we're looking for is an emotion. So if I ask you, let's say I just ask a random person, hey, why are you buying a car? Well, I need to get to work. Okay, but why are you buying? Why do you need to get, just there's so many more levels of whys that you can ask. Almost no one needs a certain thing. They want it for the way it makes them feel. I don't know if you guys have heard this saying before. I think it was the guy who invented one type of screw, and I know that sounds crazy. And they were like, why do you need a screw? He was like, you don't need a screw, you need a hole in the wall, or a drill bit, I'm sorry. You don't need a drill bit, you need a hole in the wall. Well, why would you need a hole in the wall? Well, you need a hole in the wall so you can hang up, a frame so you can put stuff on a shelf. Well, why would you need a shelf? Does anybody actually need a shelf? No one needs a shelf. Why do you want that shelf there? Well, you want the shelf there that you can take some of these things off the floor and the table and you can put them up there for better storage. It's better for us. Why? Why is it better for you? And it come to find out that at the end of the day, no one actually needs the drill bit. What they need is the comfort of a clean home. And you see how those things are different. So if you didn't ask that guy who did the drill bit why he's doing drill bits, you would never realize that what he's actually selling is not drill bits. He's selling that, no, you too, Philip, you can have a comfortable home that you enjoy. And so that's super important. I'm jumping ahead of myself. But you have to listen to the why, and you have to ask the second, third, fourth, fifth, however many whys it takes to get to, okay, that's why people are with you. That's what they're buying. To find that out. So I'm going to skip this whole story because I already told most of it, and I'm going to go on to pricing for a minute. I'm going to unmute everybody for a sec, or you can unmute yourselves, or unmute Philip and Anthony. Kyle's probably still eating chicken. I don't know how much chicken you're eating, but it's been a minute. Are there any questions about that framing section? You guys have any questions there?
None that I could think of.
Kids are
Really
being
good at
loud.
this. Really good at this, bro.
Thanks, man. You're really good at this too. Sitting there quietly while I speak. No, I'm kidding. No, so yeah, if those don't make sense, and for anybody here, anybody who listens, because apparently the vast majority of people who purchased didn't want to hang out live because I'd probably make them uncomfortable. I like making people uncomfortable a little bit. If you have any questions later, anything you think of, anything you want to know more about, as part of this, you also get access to me. If you need a pep talk before a sales meeting, if you need somebody to just encourage you and reaffirm what you're doing, feel free to hit me up. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm not going to give out my phone number on here because I don't know how many people are actually going to end up purchasing this. But yeah, so if you have anything later, guys, feel free to reach out. So yeah, by the way, on that exact story about the guy, I did make that sale, and now I'm going to go into the way I priced it. So I don't have day rates. Okay. I don't have hourly rates. There is no rate where you can say, hey, Aaron, I'll give you X money if you'll be here. The answer is no. I don't have a day rate. Now, if the amount is exorbitant, I'll probably show up. But so I price things based on value. And I actually learned this from another guy in another group. I don't want to pretend like I'm stealing information. His name is Marcus Rideout. I know Kyle's in the group. It's called How to Sell. I can't remember the name of it. It's a long name. How to Sell Videos something like that. If you search it on Facebook, it'll pop up. But he actually wrote a short ebook that I read, How to Sell Video at Higher Prices. Try that out. It's an odd group. It's a bit pointed, and it's not really free for a lot of questions. But the information, there it is. Oh, Tim, you're in that group too. There it is. How to Sell Video Production. I don't know. It's there. There's the link if you want. But so Marcus, the guy in there, he's a friend of mine, and he wrote a book about pricing, and this is what I base my pricing on, but at higher prices. All right, that's enough of that, guys. John. So the pricing is all value priced. So when I price something, I don't go into any meeting saying like, okay, I really want to sell him, some branded content. I'd like to give him some testimonials. I'd like to make $5,000 out of it. It never works that way. If you go in with a predetermined price, 9 times out of 10, you're going to leave with less money than you could have. So value prices work like this. Put on my chapstick. I might have to edit that out. Sorry, guys. Value prices work like this. If I sell products for $100, right? And let's say that my average day, I'm selling 100 products of these online for $100. So that's how much money we're making in a day. Now you extrapolate that over a year. I'm not good at math, so I'm going to pull up in a calculator. And really, you have to get better at math when you're in these meetings because you need to be able to do these calculations quickly. Somebody's probably already putting it down there. I don't know how to get to the calculator on my iPad. I'm also going to edit this out. It's in one of these little widgets here. I don't know. I can't find it. Sorry, guys, for the interruption in your daily programming. All right. So let's say I have 100 of these widgets that I'm selling for $100, and I'm doing 100 a day, right? On average, it can be different, and sometimes better, sometimes worse. So if I'm in this meeting, and this guy's like, well, yeah, because it's always after you connect those whys, after you've got that buy-in, you need to figure out about their money situations. Okay, so, and this is business. I know going into these things, sometimes at first it's uncomfortable to talk about money, but I'm never shy to ask about money. I need to know what business you're running and how it's running to know if I can properly help you or not. If you're making $100 widgets and selling one a month, then I'm not your guy because I can't work miracles, right? But we can tell a better story to get people talking if you have a customer base. So this guy's making $10,000 a day, right? And let's say that he's having a great year. He's making $120,000 this year selling these widgets on his Etsy page, whatever it is, wreaths, who knows? So I know based on that and looking at his business, and we can clearly see that, maybe it's a sales issue. Maybe he's not communicating properly, why, and he could be doing 500 of these widgets a day. Maybe, it's a time management issue, and he's spending so much time on the phone trying to do customer service that he can't get orders out fast enough. Okay, so it's just important. We got to figure out why. Okay, so let's say that he can't get orders out fast enough, and he's, in his estimates, he's missing probably 60 people a day that want these things, but he can't talk to them fast enough, right? So what do we do? Do we want to get him more sales? No, he's got the sales. He doesn't have a sales issue. What he has is a time issue. So what you're going to want to do, or what I would do, is, oh, you're good, Kyle. What I would do is tell him that what we need to figure out, John, is how we can free up that time that you're on the phone. So the next thing I would ask is, when you're on the phone with these people, what are they asking you? Give me the top 3 things that they're asking you. And so he's going to tell me well, they want to know, are my wreaths, animal free? Are they vegan wreaths? They want to know, will they last in the winter? Can they be used outdoors? And they also want to know, can they be custom colors? Now we already know. Okay, now we know what kind of asset we need to build John. We need to build John a video that he can put where his order form is at with frequently asked questions. We need to give him a video that answers those 3 questions. And what that's going to do is save John some time. Okay, so he's not going to have to pick up that phone. Instead of picking it up 60 times a day, he's going to have to pick it up maybe 1 or 2 for the odd question. And so let's extrapolate those numbers. 60 more sales a day, that's $6,000 more a day over 18 months. That's another $108,000. By making a simple, so I want to see if I can paint two sides here. Let's say I go into John. I'm like, hey, John, looked at your website. It looks like you need a frequently asked question video. I'd like to make this for you. Like, what's your budget? And like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm missing a lot of sales right now. Our marketing budget's probably only like $600 right now. Okay, that's how much you're going to get for that video because that's the way you just sold it. But go in with your position, your frame, connect that why, break down this price. And so now I can say, John, like, this is a great idea. What we need to do is build an asset that you can put on your site. And, based on your estimations, we're going to make you another $100,000 this year. Okay. Those are vastly different things, right? So when I base my prices, I always do between 10 and 20% of what we estimate the return on investment will be, which I think is fair. If there was some product, some investment that you can make on the stock market that was like, hey, you know what? We'll give you 20% every time. Of course you're going to do that. It's 20% that you don't have. So this guy, in John's mind, and this is, so you got all those other steps. This is how you make it. So it would be stupid not to hire Phil, not to hire Kyle, not to hire Anthony, not to hire Tim, not to hire whoever else watches this. If you're telling me, and we've connected, we have a relationship now, and I view you as a professional, you're an expert, you know what you're talking about. You're telling me that I can give you $20,000 and better than not chance, I'll get an extra $80,000 this year just from freeing up that time. That's huge. Who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't spend 20 to get 80? That's crazy. Everyone would, because it's simple math. So that's value-based pricing. I never, ever give a flat price. I don't care if I'm doing the same exact project for two different people. It's always based on the value I'm bringing back. Does that make sense to everyone? Philip shaking his head, yes. Anthony's yes. Kyle, yes. Tim? Tim is asleep. We've lost Tim. Au revoir.
A quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you kind of find it hard to calculate what the value is, though? I mean, everything is so different, and the other thing is do some business owners maybe get a little bit uncomfortable when you start asking some maybe personal financial questions about their business? So kind of two questions there.
No, not at all. No, I don't. So if I went into your business and I just started asking these questions, yeah, you'd probably be a little standoffish. But like I said, at this point, we're not strangers, right? That would be like me asking you right now, just in the span of this call, tell me, Phil, like, how much are you currently selling your videos at? I'm trying to figure out how to see ways we can elevate that. I need to see where these holes are. At that point, I am here to help you. I am your guide. I'm an expert, and I'm in no way interested in, that's, I don't know. I've never had anyone get even slightly weird about it. This is business. I'm an expert. I'm here to help you. If you don't want the help, let's try another time or something. But no, I've never even one time encountered anyone who didn't want to talk money, but I'm not an expert yet. What was the second part of that question, Phil?
Trying to remember. We did the asking about the money, if they get offended, and then how do you calculate the value, because everything is so different. Is it just, you're just looking at, say it's cars, they're selling each car for,
so
$10,000.
I don't want to focus only on sales, because a lot of people are making sales videos, but really, I mean, it's just, you got to be able to do the math quick. So another customer I did some training videos for on training new employees. So they had a pretty high turnover rate, and they only had one person who could train the employees. And just so happened that person got paid more than any other normal employee at the company. So they had to spend extra hours to train every new employee. So what I did, I was like, all right, let's figure this out, see if I can help. You're telling me this person has to train everybody and there's no one else. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that sounds like it could get expensive quick. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, tell me, like, about how much are you having to pay them extra, every time you train a new employee? And let's say they said $500 every, extra Saturday I have to come bring them in to train a new employee. So then I'm like, okay, so you're telling me you have a fairly high turnover rate. You've had 10 people start this month, and you're having to train all those 10 new people, and you're having to pay $500 for each one. Yeah. Okay. So now we got $5,000 a month that they're spending just training. They're not even getting anything back from that. What's up, Daniel? What's up, dude? I don't know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, nod. No, maybe. All right. So let's go back to the example. So in this meeting, like I said, this is a real customer that they're spending $5,000 a month, $500 for 10 people on training new employees. So as a business, you got to look at this like this. So over a year, that's $60,000 I'm spending in training. And you know what I'm getting back from that $60,000? Not a darn thing. Because during training, you know how much money I'm making? Zero. That's all spent. That's all out. So at that point, I mean, you could charge $60,000 and it makes sense to them, right? But I wouldn't do that because that's not an easy sell. I always go for sales that are easy that they can't say no to. So I'd say, all right, you know, Phil, looks like, I mean, that's a real big hole. And I think before we move forward with any of these other ideas that you have, I really would like to shore up that hole, you know, and get some more cash flow in your business. What we can do is I'll come in, I'll follow John around, and I will get him to train me on video of every procedure you have. This is going to take 2 weekends. You know, it's going to be a decent amount of work, but nothing compared to what John is usually doing. We're going to do that. We're going to package them and I'm going to put them on a website for you. Once we do that, every new employee, instead of following John around for a weekend, we're going to get them to watch this video back to back, Saturday and Sunday. And they're going to be not only as trained, but probably better because they can rewind and pause when they need to. Okay, so you were spending $60,000 on this. I think that, you know, I can make this for about 15 and save you a lot of money over the year. You see how that is? And at that point, does it not make sense as a business owner to do that? Like I use agree.com. It's $15 a month for my contracts. If somebody came to me and was like, wait, you're using that for $15, like I could save you $14 a month and we actually have better services and it's going to be better for you X, Y, and Z. Of course. And why would I not do that? I'm not stupid. Like I started this business to make money and not bleed it. So that was a real customer. That was a real sale. And that's exactly what I told them. And I walked out of the meeting with a check. So no, I've never, ever encountered any money issues. I think the important part is bringing up money after you develop the relationship. Like I said, if you pop in and I'm like, hey, Sally, let's talk about money. Like, who are you? You don't deserve to know about my money. But once you position yourself, you frame the sell, you connect the why, you're excited about them and their product and you want to help. And you're clearly their spirit guide here from the videos. You know, there's no reason for them to be standoffish about money at all. I don't think. Did that example make good sense? Yeah. Okay. Tim, Kyle, anybody? Daniel, can you hear us, Daniel?
I can hear you guys.
Oh, dude, what's up? How you been, man?
Hey, good. Sorry, I'm a little late, but I got your email. Thanks so much.
It's all good, man. Are you in the group?
Yeah, I'm in the main How to Sell group.
Okay, cool, man. Nice to see you.
Definitely.
Yeah, and like I said, you will have this to rewatch. You know, we're going to keep going, but then, you know, if you want to, you can go back and rewatch.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks, man.
Bro. 100%. For sure. All right, so I don't remember exactly where we were at, but that is how I break down my pricing. It's always value-based. It's always rooted in real hard facts, numbers, math. Now, like I said, you remember we started this out with you can't be afraid to fail. What if I make this video for these trainers and it's not doing what it was supposed to do? You know, you're going to make videos that fail. It's just a matter of time. You can never guarantee anything. But, you know, I can't guarantee you that you're going to make that 60 grand back. You know, you might hire a second trainer for $10 an hour. I don't know. You might never get new employees. You might go out of business. I don't know. I can't promise you anything. But what we can say is, you know, good estimates. You know, I would estimate that based on your track record the past 3 years, Sally, that you're paying John a lot of money that you don't have to. And John is wore out. He doesn't want to do this. He just does it out of necessity. It's his job. He needs to pay for his family. He would like to have that weekend with his kids. Let's think of this idea. And like I said, 90% of the time, or 99 in my case, they said yes. So value-based pricing. Any questions on that, feel free to hit me up. I'd be glad to answer those. A couple more notes that I want to go over. I've got some other stuff for you guys and that I want to give you, and I'm also going to send out some stuff to your email. Positioning and framing. Remember that if you are going to position yourself a certain way, you absolutely have to live, eat, sleep, breathe that position at all times in your life. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard your dads or moms say, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the one you want. Okay. Dude, you're the man, Tim. Appreciate you being here. Hit me up with any questions. Watch back what you're going to miss because it's going to be good. Well, at least I think it's going to be good. It's hard to say. But yeah, thank you for coming, man. We appreciate it. So you have to live and breathe that at all times. If you fail to maintain that position, you will quickly fall from that position in your customer's mind. And you have to be ready from every angle with it for both expected things, unexpected things, questions you never thought of. And that's why the story that you tell yourself and it's important that the story you tell yourself and your customers be true. If I went out here tomorrow and started saying like, yeah, I'm actually a neurosurgeon. I got my degree over at Harvard and it's been going great. There's going to be eventually a time in my career where I'm going to have to do surgery and it's not going to work out, right? So it's important that you do educate yourself. And like I said, get on some, marketing books, some seminars, YouTube, learn these things. I wasn't born with all the stuff that's helped me out. There's a lot of different resources out there that have helped me pull all this information in, and hopefully I can help you guys with it as well. All right, so next thing that applies. So how I said that the story you tell yourself and the story you tell your customers has to be true, that also rolls over into the video that you're going to make for your customers. When you're marketing a business, for a business, with video, whether it be, for sales, like I said, for training, automating tasks, whatever it may be for, it's important that the story you tell in this video be true. And when you tell something that the people who hear it believe it to be true, it changes the experience. It's much like, I don't know if any of you guys drink wine. I drink it mostly from sun up to sundown, not that often. But, people who are wine connoisseurs will tell you without a doubt that a high-end wine glass wine tastes better out of it than a solo cup. Now, we both know that the product that going into the cup is exactly the same. You can speak of things like aroma and shape and gases and all these things, but the simple facts are it's the same product, it's the same flavor. What it is someone has told you a story that you believe that this glass is necessary for it to taste a certain way. All right, so there's power in that story, and you want it to be true. And like I said, when the customer gets it, they're going to experience it a different way. So once you do that, and so you help your customer out with a video, their customers are going to fill it now with a different sense of story. If I got this chapstick here from the gas station, it meant nothing to me. But if I were a custom chapstick, with not only a custom logo on it, but with a mix of ingredients that are important to me in my lifestyle, okay, this chapstick is going to make me feel different. And then in turn, this is the whole thing you want to make sure you get in your customers' videos. When you make them feel about the product, that means they tell their friends. And that's going to get, that word of mouth, that snowball effect. You got to stop. That's too many notifications, people. Sorry. That's going to get that snowball effect for your customer, your client. I'm looking through my notes here. I want to make sure I touch on everything I wanted to touch on. Yeah, so it starts that snowball effect. When you're making a video, so are you guys familiar with the term worldview? No? Okay. So a worldview, I mean, it's simply just how someone views the world. So you could say that a Republican and a Democrat have different worldviews. They view the same thing very differently. You could say that someone from the North and someone from the South have different worldviews. They view the same types of things differently sometimes. Much the same as someone who shops at Walmart and someone who shops at Target. They have different worldviews. They feel differently about the same thing. When you're making a video, and this is just a tip, that's intended to drive sales, a lot of people are attempting or wanting to attempt to change the worldview of a certain set of customers. And that is a giant mistake. So let's say another example is like my chapstick. If I'm like, yeah, let's make a video and I'm going to run $50,000 worth of ads on Facebook for anybody who's ever bought chapstick, you are going to fail. Okay, because 99% of people do not care about your chapstick. What you want to do is find the smallest viable market, meaning the smallest market that you can make a healthy profit off of that wants your chapstick. Okay, you don't want to try to change people's worldviews. Instead, you want to target an audience where the worldview already aligns up with the frame of the story that you're wanting to tell for your customer. And as far as the video goes, the frame would be the clips, words, interactions that they see happening on screen that reinforce a bias. Okay, and when I say reinforce a bias, I mean a good or a bad bias. For me, I am biased for, very much so, Apple computers. I love them. I won't use anything else. That's a bias. So if I was making, if Apple's making a new computer, what they should do is target me, because I am 99% likely to buy that computer. What they shouldn't do is target people with Raspberry Pis who like to build their own Linux machines, because they will laugh you out of the building, right? You're not going to convince that guy to get this computer. It's going to be a waste of money. It's going to take so much more money than you'll get back from that sale. Like I said, just a little tip when you're doing sales videos. Just get the customer base down to the most viable market, and reinforce the bias with with the story you're telling. So I got 3 little notes here, and then I'm going to go over my video marketing worksheet. This is part of it that I'm also going to email to you guys. That I always, before I walk into a sales meeting, I look through this and make sure I have these points in my mind. Okay. These next 3 things are totally kind of unrelated to anything we've talked about, but there are 3 points that I thought would be important to cover. So when you have a new customer, and when you're meeting with them, you want to figure out, and there's different words for it. You want to figure out what their zone, their genius, their thrive, whatever you want to call it. You want to figure out what they are best at. Like Apple is best at something, Windows is best, whatever they're actually best at, you want to make sure you understand that completely. You want to make sure that you know without a doubt what their genius is. Apple's genius is designing products with a certain aesthetic that make me feel like I'm smart and I'm capable and I have a better sense of style than you do, if you don't agree. So you want to find, your customer's genius. The second thing that I think is really important that we haven't talked about is you always want to ask yourself, a lot of times you'll look at a potential customer, you're saying like, I kind of want to work with these people. You look at their website and maybe they have video and you're thinking like, man, really wanted that one, but they already have someone, clearly. But always make sure to ask yourself, either for a potential new customer or for someone you're making a video for now, what should a video for someone at this level look like, and what should it feel like? So if I'm making a video like we were talking about earlier, Philip, with the car lot people, they feel very cheap. They feel very low class. They don't feel great at all. But let's say I was doing a video, a personal documentary on the life and business of Jeff Bezos from Amazon. You would anticipate that to look completely different. So whenever you have a customer and you're trying to think in your head, you're planning out, always keep that in mind. What should someone at the level of X person look like? What should it feel like? Because probably that's the way their audience is going to feel too. And then the number 1 key for storytelling, before we get into this worksheet, And it only comes down to one simple sentence: creating and relieving tension. That's essentially all storytelling ever will be. You create tension, you relieve tension. You create tension, you relieve tension. You create a problem, you provide a solution. Make sense? That helps a lot whenever you're trying to tell a story in a video, especially with something that may seem kind of mundane. If you're selling, if your customer is just selling like roof panels, like, I don't know, it just seems boring. But you need to create tension with the video. You need to show, tension, like, oh no, my roof's leaking. What now? No. Whatever it may be. All right, so I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions on anything we went over so far before I go into the worksheet? Philip, no. Kyle's eating chicken. Kids are loud. Anthony, no. Daniel, I'm assuming no, because he hasn't said anything yet. All right, so you don't have to write this down. I'm going to email it to you guys so you can have it. And I will say, like I said, I don't want to steal anybody's stuff. If you've ever heard of Seth Godin, he's the one that made this worksheet, but I have adapted it for my own uses. So I've switched some of the order and, some of the way things are to be particular to my business and to video in general. So number one, and these are all questions, like I said, I look over this before I go into a meeting. And I look over it from time to time to make sure in any interaction I may have that my position's right. So when you're making a video for someone, first question, who is the video for? Okay. You always start with the end customer and make the video for them. Instead of, I've seen a lot of people trying to make a video and then market it afterwards. So what I mean by that, if me and Kyle get together and make this cool video, and then we're like, oh, like, we got to run ads to this. This was awesome. That will fail. Okay. 9 times out of 10, that's going to fail, because what you're doing is you're creating a solution for a problem that no one knows they have. Instead, what you want to do is find, your customer, you dive into their business, you find their customers, and then you make a video that is particularly suited for that customer and for that need. And, you see a lot of this with like Instagram videos, sizzle videos, things that are just like some random B-roll thrown together. Like, those aren't drawing any more business into anyone. Those aren't custom tailored solutions that are getting high dollar pay. So number one step, always ask yourself, who is this video for? And you need to think of them while you're making the video, while you're planning on the video. Number two, what is the video for? What's the point of the video you're making for your customers? And I always try to set 3 main goals. They're going to be different for every customer. Let's say for the roofing customer, we're going to want to communicate that our roofs last longer. They have wider shingles, which makes us use less and it's going to keep costs down. And I don't know, something else. We have a lifetime warranty barring tornadoes. I don't know. But you want to have 3 main goals with every video, 3 main emotions, 3 main feelings, 3 main of anything at least that you want to get across. Number 3, what's the worldview of the people that you are attempting to connect with? The more you know, the better. This will dictate how you speak to them. And like I said earlier, you speak to different people differently. A good example would be sports fans, right? If I'm trying to sell, a certain product to sports fans, like say I got a new grill line out, like I'm competing with Weber grills, and I'm trying to sell them to tailgaters. Okay, well, I'm going to communicate differently with tailgaters than I would for high-end country clubs, right? Because they're 2 different markets. So you want to figure out who this product is designed for, like who's it for, what's it for, and then we're going to ask ourselves, how do these people think? And like I said, the more you know, the better. If you know that in general, the people at this country club that we're wanting to market to love golf carts, hate TaylorMade, love Ping, all these things are going to come into play. You're going to talk to certain people a certain way. But in the same sense, if I want to tailor this grill to tailgaters, like I'm going to reference sports and, memories of sports and tailgating, like all these things. But it just really informs what the video is going to be like, what it's going to feel like. When you can figure out their worldview and really dive into that. Number 4, this one might sound weird. What are they, the audience, afraid of? Pain points are a big factor in sales videos. And so if you don't know what a pain point is, it's just literally what it sounds like. It's a point of pain and whatever you're going through. If you're selling, new roofs for my house, it's because my pain point is that is leaking and it's getting my floor wet. Okay. And that's where you can figure out what you need to solve. How can we help? What are they afraid of, and how can I help it with this product? Number 5 is, what story will we tell them, and is it true? Now, you remember we talked a little bit earlier about why being true mattered, and it matters mostly long term. So you need to know, what story am I telling? Why am I telling it? And is it true? Number 6, what change or outcome are we seeking to make with the audience? Are we trying to answer a common question, educate, the certain audience, push a product? And this can change everything from the video format to how the set is designed. And this is where, you'll have to dig into psychology some, and like sales psychology, and the thoughts that go into some things. But much like, when I'm doing interview videos or videos where someone's speaking, if it's instructional, if it is, that type of thing, like where I'm instructing on someone to do something, I have my audience, my speaker look at the camera like we are now. If it is meant to be an emotional connection only, communicating a why, I have them quartered off because it's less confrontational. It makes it more like I can imagine me in this situation instead of you're telling me how to feel, right? So you have to you'll have to figure those things out, and maybe we can go over a lot of that kind of stuff in another time. But you need to figure out what change you're trying to make, and that is going to dictate the type of video, the setup, the formats, where you're putting it at. Literally everything about it depends on what kind of change you're trying to make. Number 7, how will the video, if the desired outcome is achieved, change their status? In the emotional sales process, people care a great deal about status, and people want to feel better about themselves, and status can change the audience's culture, drive more sales, all this kind of stuff. That's a really important one. And like I was saying earlier, I think we went over the Mercedes-Benz idea, is that you don't buy a Mercedes because you need a car or you need 4 wheels to get to A to B. You buy it because of status. You buy a Tesla because of status. You don't do those things because you're a penny pincher living on a budget and looking to save for retirement. You do it because you want to be seen a certain way. And this kind of ties in with the worldview. How do these people want to be seen? What status do they want to have? If you can figure that out, you'll know a lot better how to communicate with them. Number 8, why will they tell their friends? After someone watches this video that you're making, if the desired outcome is achieved, why would they tell somebody else? It's kind of a hard question to answer. Usually they tell someone else because, another one of those things about how they feel. If I bought a Mercedes and I was super happy with it, you better bet I'm going to tell my friends because I want them to see me as the guy with the Mercedes, right? And it's kind of the same thing. You would tell somebody out of that type of status, like, look at me, I'm who I want to be. Like you see a lot of that on Instagram, like people in their Instagram lives, they're presenting a status that most of the time isn't actually true or not all the way true. That's how they want to be seen. A different form would be, in a very dedicated subgroup on Facebook, where I want my status to be, I want to share this with you because you're people like me. Does that make sense what I'm saying? You need to figure out why they will tell their friends. And again, that will affect how you're communicating to them as well. Number 9, what will they tell them? Not what is in a script, but the story. Usually they just tell people how it made them feel. So like if I go out to a new restaurant, of course it tasted great, but it was like, man, it was like so comfortable. Like, it was quiet enough we can have a conversation. It was just a great place. I can't wait to go back. Had nothing to do with what seasoning they used. It had to do with the environment and how I felt. So all those questions, and like I said, I'll email it to you because I'm sure I spoke too fast and not all of it came through. I always look at those and answer them, and it helps keep me on top of my game, when I'm going into meetings and trying to get into the mindset of my customers. I've got to go 3 minds deep here. I got to go through mine, theirs, and their customers to figure out what we need to do. Let's see. Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick pause here, and I'll edit this out of the recording. You guys feel free to unmute, hang out for a sec. I'm going to drink a sip of this water, and then I'm going to go over the questions that were submitted on the forums, and then we'll have a final conversation section. What do you think so far, Phil? Helpful? Not helpful? Waste of time?
No, good stuff. Good stuff. Last summer, I made a training video for the electricians out at the mine, and now I got my wheels turning. Like, okay, so how much would I have charged for that project? You know?
I bet you a lot more than you did.
Well, I was hourly there, you know, when I was working.
That's right. I forgot about those guys.
Trying to figure out like how much would I have charged for something like that. I mean, I still don't honestly know, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, things add up quickly, and it all depends on how you communicate it. You know, if like I said, you go into it with a dollar amount selling a video, it's going to be a lot lower than if they can see with their own eyes what they're spending on something and, you know, what they could be saving just by getting your help.
Yeah.
Just
I
your
think
help.
if I were to be going into a meeting, I'd be asking them, okay, well, how often do you have to go through this, you know, training? That'd give me a little bit more information. I know the guy who I made it with. I'm going to follow up with him once, and I want to see, you know, what kind of success it's had, and maybe ask some questions and kind of try and calculate what I would have charged for that.
Yeah, and all these things, like when you're listening to their, you know, when you're hearing about their business and stuff, they're things you'll pick up on, and the more you do it, the more you'll pick up on. But you know, if they're only training one new person a year, of course, like the avenue of training video is not going to be one that's profitable for anybody but you. And it's always important to me to remain ethical in these things. Like, could I convince them to? Maybe. Should I? Definitely not. You know, I think ethics, especially, you know, in sales and marketing, are really important, or things can get out of hand fairly fast. Let's see. Stuff's going well. He's about 35 to 40K a year. I'm always looking to grow more, of course. Oh, yeah, dude. That's sweet, though. I remember the days when I wish I was at 30 and 45K. You're crushing it only 2 years in. Who is that? Kyle?
That's me. Yeah.
Oh, man, you just burst out of nowhere.
Sorry.
No,
I thought
good.
you were finished.
No, you're good. What's up?
So have you ever had a meeting with a company that you got a bad vibe from them and you just really just wanted to like do a tuck and roll and get out of there as quickly as possible, not really even work with them?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
So that meeting I was telling you about the other day, that's kind of what happened.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
The one with the lady you were talking about, that wanted to meet in person, not on the phone?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And those kind of things, you know, I'm respectful, but I'll say, you know, like, it just seems like it might not be a good fit, and I don't want to waste your time because I know it's important. Appreciate your time, and hope you have a great day.
Yeah, well, she had just told me that they were worth like $1.5 million, which I know that's not like a lot, but when I told her $2,500 to do the video, she's like, well, why is it so expensive? And I just wanted to ask her, well, why do you charge so much for your crappy internet? But I didn't.
Yeah. So if somebody's asking why is it so expensive, that either means that you didn't communicate it properly or they're stubborn. If like sometimes like people will say that, I've had it said in meetings, like at the time when I made this one sale, it was $15,750. It was the biggest sale at that time. And when I said that number, the guy was like, man, that's expensive. And I was like, yeah, like, so you want to pay with a card or a check? Like, how do we want to do it? And he just paid. You know, a lot of times people say that's expensive because they want a second helping of it's worth it. And, you know, that's important. Like if somebody's saying like, man, why is it so expensive? That's why if you go through that value price breaking down, you know, you just like, they won't ask that. It's so expensive clearly because you saw like, I'm saving you a lot of money. Like I want to cut.
Well, that's kind of what happened. I told her, I said, well, look, it's expensive. How I broke it down to her was, excuse me. I said, if you had to rent my gear for a day, right there's $1,000 just for one day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, my experience, I said, I've had, you know, really off and on 10 years experience total in doing video, because I did video about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then kind of got out of it and then got right back into it about 3 years ago. And then I told her, I said, look, you know, if you're going to pay me $125 an hour, which I probably shouldn't even have said that now thinking about it. I shouldn't even have went over hourly rates. But I was talking from it from a standpoint, like if she's going to pay an employee, 5 or 6 hours a day, I said it's going to take me 3 days to shoot. I said it's going to take me about 20 or 30 hours of post-production work to do. I said, but really, I said, not even really about all of that. I said, how much time do you spend on the phone just trying to make sales or just trying to answer questions? I said, you probably spend a lot of hours throughout the year. It's probably almost incalculable how many hours you really spend on the phone answering questions that you're tired of answering.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I've looked at your website. I said, and you really could use like, not really a full makeover, but just information in video form that people are going to sit there and watch, because people hate reading. I mean, let's just face it. And I kind of, and the girl that was like her quote unquote marketing girl, she looked at me and she just kind of like shook her head like, yeah, that would, well, and I went to school with her, which is funny. I went to high school with this girl.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked on the side, and she's like, she said, I am on the phone like a lot. So I don't know, but at the end of the day, they just acted like they were really trying to get people's money and not trying to spend any, which is kind of funny because if they would just spend a little bit in their sales, they would. Does that make sense? I don't know.
No, it makes good sense. Now, one thing I never do is
I just got a bad feeling from them is all. I mean, it's
I mean,
crazy.
if you get a bad vibe from somebody, it's not a good fit. Like I mean, these relationships a lot of times are long term, over weeks, months, even years if you're good at it. You don't want to get in a relationship that's not beneficial for both parties. A couple things I will say though is I never go into details about price. No one has ever known what kind of camera I'm going to show up with, what gear I've got, like what gimbals, sliders, daily rates, hourly rates, nothing. They get a flat cost and there's no breakdown, and that is the cost it takes to do business with me. And that's just all part of the positioning. I'm not a gear rental house. You can't rent my gear. If you had $100,000, you can rent my gear, so it doesn't matter. Although low key, if any of you guys got $100,000 and want to rent some gear, just hit me up. So, well, with that out of the way, let's get back to it. So this last part, like I said, I don't remember, Anthony, if you were here. I'm going to go through, answer these questions that everyone had. Or not everyone had a question, but the ones that did, I'm going to go through and answer them. And I'll keep the names private because, some of them are just, you really think they know better, Anthony. But actually, but I'm going to answer these. And then, of course, like I said, we'll have a conversation at the end. If you guys have anything that needs followed up on, we'll do that. So first one, did Philip step away? Give him a second. Oh, he's there. He's there. He's just eating those chicken tenders. The first one, to what extent do you pre-production plan, such as teleprompters, or just have your subject start talking about pre-planned topics, questions, storyboard writing? So for me, this entirely depends on the type of video being made and also the budget. Does it justify X amount of planning? If I made a sale for $1,500, then no, I'm not spending a ton of time in pre-production because I don't work $7.25 an hour. But if it's a project that is paying a rate that I'm happy with, and it needs pre-production work, like a storyboard or a script, then sure, yeah, we're going to put the money and the time into that to do it. Now, storyboarding and shot lists can help a lot on larger projects, like the one I was telling you guys a little bit earlier that me and Anthony did down in Georgia, the SNF location. That was a big project. That was 5 videos. Do companies normally ask you for storyboards? No, I've never had one company ask me for storyboards. I don't position myself as a storyboard artist, so it's not something they're going to ask for. So those kind of things, like at that shoot, we made 5 3-minute videos for different jobs. So it's a national recruiting campaign that they're putting on. There was some planning that went into it. Not as much as probably should have, looking back, because we're working with some sketchy parties over there. I'm going to stop with that. But yeah, so in some cases, storyboarding can help a lot, especially if you know the direction that you're going to go and the audience you're trying to reach. Now, how deep you're going storyboarding, are you drawing each frame out on Storyboarder, like an app on Mac? I don't do that, no. I mostly just write notes that usually come from me after the interview. So if I'm interviewing you about a certain thing, like, Philip, you want to sell more of your chorus class? I want to hear you first, and then after that, I'm going to write down my notes of, okay, I know we need this, 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 and this. And then I don't really need a storyboard for that, but sometimes they can be helpful. For capturing live events like a wedding, I have no storyboard at all. I only capture emotions that matter and the way I like to see them. Teleprompters, I do have a teleprompter. The only time I've ever used it was when I had a lady. Anthony was also with this one, with me on this one. She was teaching an online course that had a script. So yeah, I used the teleprompter for that because it would have been way too much to remember. I still have if anyone wants to buy a teleprompter, I got one for sale. No, I'm kidding. I should probably keep it. That's the only time I would use it. If it's a scripted thing that needs to be scripted, such as a course, instructional material, recipes, something like that. Otherwise, I much prefer the authenticity of real, raw, emotional answers, unless you're working with quality actors. So if you have actors that know what they're doing and can work off a script, of course, you can script that. Otherwise, I just have everything real, and I'm, just do my best to edit it really creatively sometimes. The next one, how to sell a video to someone who thinks they can do it on their own with their iPhone. You know what? This one's tricky because in a lot of cases they can, but we're not talking about selling videos. We are talking about providing solutions. Almost anybody that you meet now is going to have a cell phone and will know how to make a video recording. And if you're selling that, you're quickly running out of market to sell to. So I'd encourage you not to sell videos at all, but sell solutions. But the thing here is that while, yeah, they can make a video, that's fine and well, but how much knowledge do they have about what needs to go into that video? Because I'm sure you can agree that you've seen a lot of videos on Instagram that have no real substance and wouldn't work to drive your sales more than anything else. So I wouldn't be too concerned with that kind of customer. I would just explain to them the difference. Sure, John, you could probably make a video on your cell phone, but tell me, what strategy are you going to use to reach your customers better? Like, what marketing aspects are you going to go for that's going to, line up with their worldview, right? So that way that they're going to tell their friends more about your product. Okay, they're not going to know that because what they're in the business of is making their product, not marketing. If they were marketers, they would have been marketers. So yeah, I've had that a couple times, but it's never been a major objection, except that one time that I outsold myself and gave away all my strategy to, and then that could become a real problem for you. I would encourage everybody that ever watches this or listens to it, read books, watch seminars, listen to podcasts, interviews of great marketers, and broaden your knowledge. So that regardless of what level of video work they're at, I don't care if they have a red camera, that they won't have the solution or strategy that will equal, to what you're going to use as the expert at the conversation. And that's just a knowledge and positioning thing. The next one was, how can you land retainer clients for consistent income? So there's two real ways to land retainer clients. The first one is an actual retainer, which means they want, X amount of videos over every month for the whole year. So retainer videos, excuse me, are going to be heavy on brand marketing. So here's the thing. A lot of people think they want a brand, but what branding requires is consistency. And brand marketing is notoriously hard to measure because you might have 10,000 views a day on your video, but you don't know how many of those people care about it. So what you have to do as a brand marketer, you have to spend all this ad money over an entire year to really figure out how it's doing, or maybe more than a year. How many billboards and signs has Coca-Cola put up since they started? Who knows? I mean, I couldn't even guesstimate at that. And I guarantee you, if you went to Coca-Cola headquarters and said, hey, out of all the signs you've ever put up, how many sales have you got from each one? No clue. There's no way to know. It's just, brand marketing just isn't that measurable. Usually the retainers are for people who really want to establish a strong brand. And they're going to have to have some money to back it up. Those are generally people who know what they're looking for, and they know that they want to create a brand, what they really need to do, or what they really need is help to tell that story. So if you're looking for that type of retainer work, I would say find people who want a brand. Otherwise, right, yeah, creating trust between company and buyer. That's important for those for brand marketing. Find somebody who wants to have a brand or a company that wants to have a brand. If you try to get a retainer otherwise, trying to force yourself into a retainer probably isn't going to work out great long term, just because most people don't need constant video work at a high level. Well, need is one thing, but can afford is another. And like I said, it's important to be ethical and not, you don't want to hurt their business more than you're helping it. The other way, and this is how I do most of my retainer work, is to sell large projects over a certain amount of time. So let's say your company, you need a sales video, you're really interested in that training video, you need a frequently asked question video, you would love to have a video on your company's safety training that you're getting to going, and you have 3 events this year that you really want to recap because you want the events to be bigger next year. That's a lot of videos. So what I do is like, great, let's do all that. X amount of money, let's knock them out over the next year. You can make payments of X amount every month. We're both happy. That's how I create my retainers and consistent income. And I think that most cases it's easier to do that way than it is to do, brand marketing, just because it takes a lot of money to get those type of retainers. And you'll often see people getting, with those large deals, companies will say, hey, you know what? Our marketing budget for this year is 60 grand. Like, let's just go ahead and let's spend that all right here with you. And that's a great thing. That's an awesome thing. And like I said, that's how I've got most of my consistent retainer work, other than, previous clients wanting new stuff, which is a different thing. Let's see what else we got here. What was the second? I thought there was a second part of that. I don't think there was. Oh yeah. Here we go. Gear. What kind of gear do you need to start in commercial work? As far as my opinion goes, if you have any gear at all, you have the gear you need. Well, I should say that any gear that you currently have is definitely enough to get started. I made my first several videos on a Nikon, what was it, D200? I don't even know. It was barely 1080. I mean, it had nothing. It was a potato. I didn't even have a tripod. I just had a monopod. What is Anthony typing now? I see him. So yeah, as far as gear, use what you have now. And the key strategy for upgrading is when you need it. So, if you have a customer that's really interested in green screen work and they're willing to pay the money it takes, that's when you would purchase a green screen, when it makes sense for your business. And so when I had a customer who wanted a lot of green screen work, is also when I upgraded a camera to something that recorded, a higher codec, higher bit rate to screen out better and have better quality. If the customer doesn't require it, you're a business. Don't waste your money on things that you don't need. That's just a good way to go out of business. Next one. I don't know if I wrote this one down properly, but I'm just going to read my answer. Read what I wrote down anyway. It must have been about weddings. Okay. So selling weddings, this what we did here is really specific to commercials or business customers, but the same concepts apply. Like I said early in the call, with most anything, you just have to position yourself as an asset and use the right psychological tools to your benefit. And if you mix that in with great wedding films and being authentic and caring about your couples and following up with them on their anniversaries, things like that, then the same results apply. I would say position yourself as creating a legacy for their grandchildren and their children, and that for years to come they'll remember the real emotions that they had on the day. I've used that several times on a sales call, and I've landed weddings like that. How to close a deal? That's kind of a broad question, but if you get the position and frame right, the potential customer will feel like they lose out if they choose not to work with you. And I know we went over that. I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but people will take action against losing, missing, or having negative actions most times. So if you present it as only features like, oh, you'll get X, Y, and Z, a lot of times they won't jump with that. But if you get into the categories of, you're going to walk out the door and in their mind, they're like, I may never get this opportunity again. I might miss out. A lot of more times they're going to be on that. So it like, just to close the deal, if you position yourself right and you frame the sale right and you communicate the value and what you want in return right, it's closed. There's no way to not close that. The sale happens in the emotional stage. The close, in my opinion, comes down to that value added, because like I said, people buy with emotion and justify with logic. They're going to buy it when you're communicating that why, you're getting in with them, you're making that relationship, and then you're going to close it by showing the numbers and like, and this really just adds up for you, buddy. Might as well do it now. And that's how you close a deal. Pitching bigger deals. Okay. So pitching bigger deals is kind of a two-part thing. If you're, you go down to your local networking meeting and everybody, like in my experience in my first ever networking meeting was selling Mary Kay makeup, a couple $100s a month, there clearly is no budget for any type of video. So the first thing is the customer has to have money. If they don't have money, it's not going to make sense for them ever to have a high level video. And in that case, I think it will be, like I said earlier, unethical to sell to them in the first place. But another obstacle that I get a lot, and I know we touched on it, is marketing budget. I always try to destroy this objection before it can take hold, in the customer's mind. Because, like as soon as they're sitting down with somebody that they think is just a video marketer, they're going to be like, well, I know my budget's only, $4,000 for the whole year, so I'm not going to spend it all today. That's what they're going to be thinking. So it's important to, at the beginning, just destroy that you're a marketer. An example could be, hey, a lot of people meet with me see video as just a marketing tool, but that's really selling short all video can accomplish. Like in life, somebody's honking horns outside my house. In a business, everything comes down to relationships, which are built, in my opinion, on communication and shared experiences. And video is uniquely powerful in being able to do that. And that's when, when you're figuring out their company, you can figure out, like training videos that would not go under a marketing budget, because that's not marketing at all. Although really what they mean is advertising budget, which is two completely different things. I really dislike that people who are advertisers think that they're marketers, and people who are marketers think that they're advertisers. They're different skill sets, and some people group them together. But yeah, a lot of people, when they say marketing budget, what they mean is advertising budget. And I just negate that by just completely obliterating the argument, because we're not talking about marketing here. This isn't a meeting about marketing. This is a meeting about your business. I want to get to know you and see if there's something I can assist you with. And then, a lot of the other part of that comes down to just having the guts to be able to say a high number, and it'll make you sweat. No lie. This is my first camera getting. Anthony, if you post the bulldog on here, I can't do it. Did you have it up? Gosh, look at that thing. Yeah. So with the high prices, if you're going to go in there, you've got to position yourself strong, and you got to have guts to look at me in the eye and say, this is going to cost $25,000 for you right now, today. It's a process. At least for me, it was a process. I went up and up, and like when I first said 5,000, I was like, whoa, somebody's going to pay $5,000 for this. And then 5,000 got old. And then, I felt like I knew more and I was worth more. And so I said 8,000. And then that was exciting. And then 8,000 got old. And, it keeps going. You just have to be willing to say the price that makes you sweat, but know you're worth it. And that just comes from practice, learning, grinding, and understanding your value. How to handle pushback from old clients on price raises. So in the end, this is a business, guys. Business is business. That's just what it is. It's about money. It's about profit. It's about margins. and there's no way, to paint it any different. As a product gets better, as I get better, as I get more qualified to do better work for you, only makes sense if the price goes up. If Target came out with a new luxury line of suits, combined with Armani, like, you're not going to expect to go in there and get them for $15 on the Target rack. It's just not going to happen. It's better silk, it's better thread, it's handmade. This is business. Like, I'm sure your customer wouldn't think that, now they've come out with a lot better product, they should also sell it at a loss. So if you have old customers that are giving you, haggling your prices, just explain to them, this is my business. I've grown a lot, and of course that's not always going to be a fit for them, but if you work on it, it can be done. It's not always easy, but it can be. All right, so that's all I'm going to cover. I think I'm going to email you guys a couple more things, that form, and also some B-roll tips, because we didn't get a chance to get into B-roll, but it is 8:15 and I'm hungry and my wife is home. So with that being said, any questions, anything you guys want to cover before we bounce off this? I'm unmuting you guys. It won't let me unmute you. Unmute if you want. I don't know.
I got one quick question.
Yeah, what's up, Phil?
Do you seek out customers and just call up and say, hey, can I talk to the manager? Or
No.
do they approach you? Or how is this? How'd you get in?
Yeah. That's a great question. I can't believe I didn't cover that. Have you ever heard of the law of positive attraction?
I can assume what it is. But.
Yeah. So it's funny how, no, I've never been one to seek out or cold call or, solicit business. It's weird how it worked out for me, that when I started believing my own story and I started carrying myself and speaking about myself like I was who I thought I was, normal relationships when they were beginning just started to become more, Kyle. You're so dumb, Kyle. It's just kind of attracted itself to me. So, when I met, guy number A over here and carried myself a certain way, it ends up being like, you know what? I got to introduce you to my buddy. I think he can use you. And then, so when you work with this buddy and you have a good experience there and you got great results for him, of course he wants to look like he found the best deal on the market right now, and he's going to share it with his buddies. Literally all of my business comes from word of mouth. I don't run ads. I don't do anything else. Just off relationships. The key there is to start building the relationships, because of course, if you've never done this, no one's going to ring you up and be like, hey, Phil, I'm looking for a high level video guy. Are you my guy? Probably just not going to happen. So what you want to do is figure out where those people are and go there and be there. So, if you have a local watering hole that's business casual, that execs like to go on the weekend, I don't know, in North Dakota. Are you in North Dakota? Yeah, okay. I always get that mixed up with Idaho, and I don't know why. Wherever those kind of people, your target customers in your location, wherever they hang out, wherever they frequent, whatever events they're going to, are they going to grand openings? Are they going to conferences? Whatever they're at, place yourself in their world and become a part of it. And that's how you start building those relationships. Make yourself, an essential part of their daily lives.
This weekend was a sports show. I should have went there. That would have been a great.
You'll be kicking yourself if you don't go to those things, man. You know what? What kind of sports show was it?
Like fishing and camping and.
Dude, are you kidding? You just passed up so many opportunities.
I should have walked around there handing out cards and shaking hands.
I don't even have cards. I just start conversations, and if somebody asks me for a card, I just tell them that I'm all out because I just gave out my last one. But I'll take yours.
That would have been a good opportunity.
Yeah.
So I got one for you.
Yeah. What's up, man?
So what about reaching out to a business who's not even at that you know of is thinking about even spending any money for something that you can help with, and then dishing out high price. So you go up to their business and be like, I can help you, but at this price.
So that's really difficult. In fact, and this goes against most things I preach, because I am 99.9% against free work. But let's give an example. let's say I'm a big Adidas fan, right? Or Just In Case, or whatever that case is that you like. Let's say I'm a huge fan. I love their work. And not only that, but I know that if we paired together, I could get them some really good results. What I would do is reach out and offer to make a free video. And when I made that free video and it completely blew the socks off of whatever else they have done, and they come back to you like, man, like, we want to do more of this. Like, let's talk. Okay. Now, so that's a hard thing to do because you're essentially soliciting business. And, you know, people have no soliciting signs for a reason because everyone hates getting solicited. Like in my normal day-to-day life, I'm not trying to get sold to. I don't want to be pitched at. I just want to live my life. Okay. That's why the relationship part is so important, because if we have a relationship, I can be a part of your life and it's not a bad thing for you or interrupting anything. So that's why I'd say that, start for free at first. So if someone came to me, they're like, hey, like, I'm starting a window cleaning business. I love the big glass windows you got on your business. Is there any way you'd let me clean them for free? I just want to do that for you. Most people, probably would say, yeah. Like, who's not going to, it's free. It's a free window cleaning. Like, the other guy's not going to be here till Thursday. Like, may as well do it now. Something like that. But the issue then is you've positioned yourself as you're not worth a whole lot. And you got to somehow figure out how to switch the tables once. And the way you do that is by creating the video assets so good that they're like, we need more. Like, we have to have more of what Anthony's offering. Like, we can't go another day without this. So you really have to make it feel like that. Like, you got to be a big fan of theirs. You got to love what they're doing. Like, you really care for them. Make this cold, quick video. No, I wouldn't put like all my life into it, because if you're not getting money for it, you don't want to waste your time. And then reposition yourself, with all that you're capable of. That's what I would do. And the first one may not say yeah. You might could message 75 bag companies that say no, but one definitely would. Could you work that into, say, like a crack dealer does? You get the first for free. That's the best thing ever. You come back for more. You know what? That's actually kind of similar. I guess that is kind of similar. You get the first taste for free, and then you realize that this is all you've been looking for your whole life, and you have to have more. It doesn't matter what it costs. Yeah, so I guess we're video drug dealers. I don't know. All right, cool. Anything else? Daniel, you got anything? Phil, Ant, Kyle?
Nope.
Nothing pressing right now, but yeah.
Sweet. So I hope this was worth your time, guys. I hope it was worth $10. $10 isn't a lot. But I wanted to charge $10 because I would rather, like I said, I think 15 people signed up. I would rather help 15 people who actually were looking for help than distract 100 people that really didn't want anything to do with it. And as always, it's been fun. You guys are the best. Glad I get to be a part of what you're doing. Look forward to seeing you succeed. If you need anything, just a message, a phone call. Not a phone call. I don't know what to tell on the phone. I'm a message away. If you guys don't have anything else, I'm going to go eat. Have a good night.
We could